Mr. Toastmaster. The world is your oyster is a phrase from a Shakespeare play. And I'm curious, with a show of hands, how many in the room have visited somewhere outside of the state of Arizona? Oh, a lot. And then a second show of hands for people who visited a country outside of the United States. We have world travelers in the room. I would say that the world is your oyster in terms of the travel that I've had the opportunity to do through my work in my career. As a child growing up in Minnesota, I vowed to leave as soon as possible. When I was growing up in the snowbanks, I remember waiting for the bus with my saxophone and book bag clutched, with my teeth chattering, waiting for the bus to come, because I was in the country 4 miles from the closest town. As soon as I turned 18, I packed my car and drove cross country to school in the West and never looked back. Yeah, I went back to school there 1 year for college, but that was it. My mother wanted me to go to college, and I really wanted to travel. Rather than travel, I did go to school. However, over 5 years, I attended 4 colleges in 4 different states. So I accomplished the goal of traveling while still getting my education. My first job out of college, I was hired as a service rep for the phone company, even though I had a college degree. 2 years later, they wanted to promote me and move me to Seattle, Washington. I accepted the challenge, relocated to Seattle, and spent another 2.5 years with webs growing between my feet from the rain up in the Northwest. I was then offered an opportunity to move to Phoenix, which brought me here, and I stayed 20 years and absolutely loved it. Yet my itch to move to New York was still there. When I had graduated from college, I had told my mother, I really think I want to move to New York. And her response to me was, are you sure? It's so far away. And that conversation swayed me enough to not move. And a month later, I met my children's father, and the rest was history. However, once I moved to Arizona, the opportunity presented itself for me to still move to New York. I feel I was destined to have that experience and live in New York City. And I did that for almost 5 years. And my commute there was going by subway, packed like sardines at times in this sweltering heat like we have now, not quite as hot, but almost, until I would submerge out from the ground up to the street level in Times Square. And then I would be ducking and dodging tourists as I'm trying to get to my office on time. That was a great experience. However, I always felt I was meant to be a California girl. I then proceeded to get in touch with some executives I'd worked with here to pursue an opportunity to move to Southern California. And I was able to secure a role which, again, I felt was the world was my oyster as the head of global media for a digital agency in Southern California. That allowed me to travel the world. I had a team around the globe, and some of the most memorable trips that I took were around the Asia Pacific area. I remember specifically Singapore being such an awesome place. It was very much a kind of island type feel with the climate, yet it was pristine. The streets were completely clean, and if you chewed gum or spit on the sidewalk, you could be fined, actually. It was a wonderful trip, but it was in and out within a day, like about 36-hour kind of trip, so I didn't really get to see very much. Taiwan was the next place that I went. And I remember there, all of the mopeds lined up on the street, and mopeds weaving in and out of traffic as I'm in a cab, afraid that we were going to hit one of them. So it was a harrowing kind of experience in a city like that. The most memorable experience was going to China. When I had traveled there, the company that sponsored me was insistent on sharing every delicacy from China with me in the restaurants. I was not a big fan of duck. However, they insisted in Shanghai to take me to the Peking duck restaurant. As the ducks are hanging with their necks and their bodies glazed with seasoning, we went in, and of course he ordered duck and encouraged me to enjoy it and have some of the skin with it, because that was the best part. And as I took that and was about to start chewing it and swallowed it, I could feel my stomach swirling as I remembered back to feeding the ducks recently at Chaparral Park. To this day, I am not a fan of Chinese food. After a complete week of nothing but Chinese food, I am not a fan. The highlight of the trip was going to Shanghai, to the financial district. That building is one of the tallest buildings in the world. It has 100 stories. It takes between 10 and 15 minutes to get to the top. And once you get to the top, there's a glass floor that you can look down 100 floors to the ground and see the buildings below, which looked a bit like the Jetsons. And you could see the little cars moving, and I had vertigo. As soon as I started looking out, it felt like the building was moving, and it really wasn't. While I am a fan of travel, I will say that my favorite place to go to sleep and wake up is in my own bed.